पर क्लिक करेंगे और आपकी जो स्ट्रीमिंग है वो स्टार्ट हो चुकी है। यहाँ पर जाना है आप लोग को अपने चैनल पर और यहाँ देखो ये आपका लाइव यहाँ पर स्टार्ट हो चुका है और आप लोग अपने चैनल को जब ओपन करोगे ना तो ये लाइव हो चुका होगा। ठीक है, यहाँ पर ये अनलिस्टेड है, मैं इसको यहाँ पर ये देखो ये हमारी लाइव स्टार्ट हो चुकी है। आप लोग खुद यहाँ पर चेक कर सकते हो। यहाँ पर थोड़ी देर में व्यूवर्स भी आना शुरू हो जाएंगे। ये देखो लाइव यहाँ पर चल रहा है ये पूरा। ओके, ये देखो पूरा लाइव प्ले हो चुका है हमारा क्रिकेट मैच। मैं आपको अपने चैनल पर भी ओपन करके एक बार दिखा देता हूँ। चलते हैं अपने चैनल पर। मैं रिकॉर्डिंग कर रहा हूँ तो भाई वॉइस हो सकता है थोड़ा
That's one thing about adaptability. I think they've kind of analyzed what it is to play against England and the new attitude that England has. They're not going to be patient around any of the lines and lengths that the Australians or any of the bowler will bowl. They will look to score boundaries, as we saw with that first shot of Zak Crawley. So no matter what you say, yes, it's always nice to start with the field up, but they know that if they actually dry out the boundaries, the question is, will England stay as patient and as disciplined to actually milk those singles with the gaps and not really try and attack or be too reckless? The answer so far is that yes, England also have been able to adapt with the pass ball philosophy and really play their style of cricket. They're still going at over 4 runs and over. They're still giving very little opportunity unless it's a brilliant ball or a mistake in terms of a stroke like with Ollie Pope. And it's interesting to see how both philosophies have adapted for this first Ashes within their own strengths, and they've really assessed each other well.
Well, we'll come back to that point in a minute, but in terms of setting tone in the right direction, England had some shockers historically. Harmson's delivery to full slip or whatever it was. Burns getting bowled round his leg, the Gabba. That was some statement from Zak Crawley. I mean, that's why, one of the reasons he's picked, not for just one ball, obviously, but that's why he's been picked, to put the pressure back on the opposition.
Massive stunt piece, because typically when you think about Zak Crawley too, you're thinking aggressive style player, yes, one ball on the short ball, but it has been driving on balls that aren't quite full enough and bringing the slips cordon as late. So there it is, and he gets into a wonderful position, not just for Cummins' first delivery, but then for Hazlewood as well. So that's Hazlewood coming back into this setup after all this time off, wanting to try and get to his groove quickly, and all of a sudden you've got Crawley getting on the front foot comfortably and smoking him through the covers. It was brilliant.
Well, we'll come back to Crawley again. Deal with these singles though, 54 of them. Cummins, Boland, whatever, trying to hit the top of off stump. And if they're hitting the top of off stump, which is their best ball, they're giving away runs. I didn't get that. And I was thinking what Shane Warne would. He would have rushed out of that commentary box, gone out in the middle of the field and set the pitch and then come back off.
Yeah, absolutely. It was also the nature of the pitch, I think, they tried to assess quickly. But I agree with you in terms of trying to get the bowlers to bowl a particular line of length that brings the stumps into play, LBW and the outside edge. Once you spread the field, you actually tell the bowler, you're not getting much cover for your very good balls. They're always going to go for singles. You don't get the opportunity to bowl a consistent number of balls at a particular batter, so it kind of plays negatively in terms of how the Australians traditionally play. This is a New England. Are they really going to be satisfied with singles? I don't think so. That's not the way they played. But that's also a question for England to say, this is how that first session went, and actually this can work in our favour in terms of baseball. We're getting easy singles, there are enough gaps for boundaries, so why don't we just ride the wave? And Australia will have to keep on adapting in terms of changing the field. They have Root out in the middle, they can set a more conventional field. They just got Zak Crawley, they've got Brook coming in, squeeze them for a while to see whether you can get more balls being bowled at a certain batter for a longer period of time, so the bowlers can actually settle down to a plan. If it doesn't work, prey on the patience of England and see if that works as well. So they've got enough opportunities.
But Crawley got that bat about right, didn't he? I mean, he got a beauty just before lunch break. But in terms of his stroke play, I mean, we've dealt with the first ball they faced. But in terms of, he did take the singles. He had one big whip that could have been out. But in terms of how he paced things, how would you say he went?
Yeah, I think when you look at openers, you want a nice little balance, don't you? He got players and coaches in the back of his head saying, play your natural game. He'd been able to do that. And then big thing for me is, can he temper that a little bit? So you get off to a flyer like that, sometimes the ego can take over kind of Kumar, and you can just keep throwing your hands at it, but he settled himself.
Yeah, what I really like about Zak Crawley is one of his weaknesses, as Mel pointed out earlier, was being the slips into 10. That's because he was very straight line through the offside. If you watch his innings today from that first shot on, he's got a lot more curve in his bat swing from his back lift through the offside, which he didn't have earlier. Ollie Pope does it. Joe Root does it. So that means Zak Crawley has been thinking a little bit of technique in his own mind and made the adjustment. And that's why he was so strong and dominating through that offside.
I know Marasmus gave him out not outs quite quickly, but that's a heck of a stand, isn't it? For him not to walk off. I mean, that's sort of Stuart Broad-esque, isn't it?
It was a little bit. We were standing on the sidelines waiting to come out, and I went, oh, that's gone. You know, that's miles away. So, yeah, not quite too sure how he's missed that one.
I think there was a point when the appeal was extended and you had Murray Erasmus nod, and Zach Crawley was about to just walk off. He did expect that decision to be given. You can see from the body language, but he knew the moment he went up for review that he was done.
Well, he was done. It was a wicket Australia desperately needed just up to the break. Let's quickly show you the other two wickets if you haven't seen them. Let's start Sangha, though, with Duckett. It is a strength of his, square on the offside, but he just didn't commit to this shot, did he?
No, not really. So you get two thoughts on that. One is that the field was set to cover the boundary that he usually hits and gets more committed through the cut. So was that the reason why he was more tentative in trying to push it for one more than hit it as he usually does? There's also, in terms of difference of attitude from Zach Crawley's first shot to what we saw with Duckett, he wasn't really committed to his strength. So perhaps it could be nerves. It's a big Ash series, first up for Duckett. So it could be a combination of both.
This is the other way. Ollie Pope will be kicking himself. Full up to Nathan Lyon, though. Off spinner taking a wicket in the first session of first day of Test match on that pitch.
Yeah, I look and went, oh, Nathan Lyon's on. It's the earliest he's been on for probably, 7 years. But this is Pat Cummins and Nathan Lyon saying, well, what's in it? Take the pace off, change it up a little bit. He got the inside edge earlier, that sort of went off pad, and then couldn't miss. Sorry, who's our wicket keeper? Carey. Couldn't get his legs in to try and take
Went for
it.
a while, left out.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. But again, I suppose that's the adjustment for Pat Cummins. This is his biggest challenge, I think, Pat Cummins as a captain early into his career, is to go with that gut instinct or then go with the team plan that they've been talking about for the last 12 months.
OK, thank you very much. 124 for 3 then at lunch on the opening day of this Ashes series. Ben Stokes hasn't done anything yet apart from win the toss and decide to bat, but he will be right in the thick of things as we go through the Ashes.
It is not the critic who counts.
Stokes is neither a proper batsman or a proper bowler.
Not the man who points out the strong man's stumbles.
I've said about it on the field, Ben could wear a T-shirt, why always me? Off the field, he could do exactly the same. Trouble follows him around.
Or where the doer of deeds could have done them better.
Ben Stokes is having a horror run of form. He thought it was there to hit, but he got no timing on it. He's in no control of that shot, and the most simple of catches.
The credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena.
Oh, no way! No way! You cannot do that, Ben Stokes.
Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Who strives valiantly. Who errs. Who comes short again and again.
24 from 4 deliveries, and the West Indies win.
Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds?
It's Ben Stokes with the winning runs. Who else? It's always Ben Stokes. He has his redemption from 2016.
Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions.
Oh, what a catch! Ben Stokes.
Who spends himself in a worthy cause.
England are on top of the world.
Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement.
What an innings, what a player. Take out Ben Stokes.
And who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails when daring greatly. So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with sweat and dust and blood, who strives valiantly. I love that quote because to me it gets to the essence of sport, which is that fulfillment comes from the contest and the competition and the courage to keep putting yourself out there time and again, no matter what happens. Does that resonate with you as well?
Yeah, it does massively. And I think it's sometimes sort of something that can be overlooked from external people of actually how hard it is, sort of, what we do out there, to turn up day after day after day, and not only with the sort of battle out the middle, but also the days, spent on the training field and hard work and the grind that goes in from everyone, that that's where that kind of stuff and hearing words like that, albeit very old English saying, resonates real well with me.
Carlo Brathwaite! Carlo Brathwaite! Remember the name! History for the West Indies!
You were there with Ben probably at two moments where he was at his highest and his lowest on the cricket field. Kolkata 2016 when Carlos Brathwaite hit those 4 sixes, and then the World Cup final at Lords. Take us an intimate moment there with Ben for those highs and lows and how he coped with both.
Yeah, how he coped with both are in the same way, really. And I've been looking to know and play with Ben for a long time. And he's always seemed to find a way to deal with a circumstance, regardless how big, how small, regardless the occasion or unoccasion. And Calpe in particular really epitomises what Ben is about. Obviously an unbelievably tough day, but a moment in isolation to be judged upon. If it was any other player around the world or a different type of character, they don't come through the other side of that. And not only don't they come through the other side of it, if you look at Ben has gone on to learn or progress and share that moment with others so they can learn, is just totally remarkable. And I think after in the change room, the gist of the feeling at Calcutta then was that we go through this together. There is not one person that is more exposed than the other.
If I take you both back, 2011 in Dublin, I think was the first time you two played together for England. It was your first game as captain, actually. It was your ODI debut. I don't know whether you remember. Beefy gave you your cap. What were your initial impressions of each other, first of all as men and then as players?
Wow, that's a long time ago. Oh gosh. Well, for me it was like, I can't remember how old I would be, about 19, 20 maybe. So yeah, I was just taking everything in as for what it sort of came as. Like, wasn't really thinking about too much else. I was in like the nice England gear and sort of was like, just training with England, like how good's this? Wasn't really thinking about too much else, to be honest. Yeah.
Do you remember Beefy in the New York cap? Did you know who Beefy was?
No. I think I actually, wasn't he? I think I might have been given like Jay Dernbach's cap for my debut, because I think there was I can't remember what was wrong, but I think there was something wrong with the ODI caps. But yeah, look, that was just, I remember, you can't not remember days like that. Just you're holding back, like, the smiles you're just thinking about now. Like, I remember I stood there and I was just like, sort of like I could have been smiling ear to ear, but those moments in itself, you're just like, it was just amazing as such a young lad to be able to go out there and play.
I don't know what you thought of Ben at the time. You didn't bowl him in that game, so I know how highly you regarded him as an all-rounder at that stage. But when did it become clear, if not just then, about what cricketer you had on your hands?
Yeah, my first ever hearing about Ben was through Paul Collingwood, who was part of Ben's team as well, but is a remarkable judge of character and skill and talent. And he was outspoken about Ben from a very young age, about how gifted he was as a player. So when somebody comes in that sort of a rap behind him, you're very conscious in watching how they go about the business. And there were two things that struck me about Ben: just the abundance of energy he had to do absolutely everything all at once. And the second thing was just an aura of confidence that not all players have, whatever stage in their career, never mind a youngster coming into a group. And the more that I got to know Ben, the more that I saw the underlining factor and drive behind everything, which is just this unwavering determination to want to win and succeed.
Is that innate? Is it born, or can you?
Well, it's probably a question for him, because it's definitely still there, and it was there throughout the whole time I played with Ben, and you can see it in certain people more vividly than others.
I suspect that the spiritual godfather of what you've been trying to do with your Test team was pretty much Owen's captaincy and what he did with the one-day team. First of all, is that right? And B, what did you see playing under Owen, and what elements of his captaincy did you want to take forward into your Test match game?
So in 2015, when we had the sort of white ball reset after the World Cup, this is something like I didn't deserve to be in that squad. I probably didn't deserve to be in that group of players that Morgs decided to go with for that 4-year period. Just in terms of, I think I was averaging maybe 20 in one-day cricket with 20 or 30 games probably under my belt. So, and Morgs has just gone on about there, sort of like identifying people, and obviously he's not giving himself, he's never going to give himself too much credit, is he? But he had an unbelievable eye at doing that as well. So, what that in particular is Morgs obviously seen something in myself and seen from a lot of other group of players, which is I had to do when I got given the chance of leading this Test team, was just sitting myself down and going, who in England is going to be able to do what I want to be able to do as England Test captain? Everything before that is irrelevant. It's all about from the here and now is who's going to get picked in this Test team. The past is the past. We're all about the here and now and what we want to achieve, and what I want to achieve as a captain, and what I want to be able to achieve is getting the best out of players and almost making them believe that they're better than what they thought they were at the time. And that's something that I've massively taken from Morgs, because I got the opportunity from himself to be able to do that.
And is that also a clarity of direction that the person at the top needs to give? An absolutely wavering kind of road ahead for the players?
100%, and there can't be, I don't think there can be anyone in the way to stop that person. Morgs knew exactly what he wanted, and I don't think anyone was there to stop him from doing that, because when you've got the complete clarity that you want as a leader, it's very easy to be able to get it into the players without anyone being in the middle of captain to the players, because you don't want anyone being able to say something different to what you're saying. And that's where the management that I have alongside me at the moment, obviously with Brendan, has just been incredible. It would be very easy for someone to come in and say something completely different to make players think something else, but I'm very, very fortunate I don't have anyone there in the coaching staff who do that. We're all aligned.
And did you see in Ben, when he's playing under you in the one-day side, did you see somebody there that you thought, well, this guy is an obvious leader, captain of the team, whether that be Test team or one-day team going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I always felt with somebody like Ben, when you have somebody as unbelievably talented as him, as a captain or as a coach at your disposal, there's a huge element of responsibility on your shoulders to get that player in the right spot. And you've batted at a number of different spaces. You've bowled at the death, you've bowled at the start. Trying to find that balance can work really well or just not work at all. It's important to have that direction that he's giving his team at the moment, but also it's easy to sit back and watch him on the field when he wasn't captain and say, this guy is unbelievable at leading. He's probably been leading his whole life and not even realised it. He just embodies authenticity and embodies clarity and direction. So yes is the answer to the question, but I always thought balance would be so hard, bowling, batting, in key fielding positions. He's found the balance.
And with a dodgy knee as well. I'm going to ask a question that might slightly embarrass him, I don't know, but I wondered whether any elements of his captaincy that you thought, no, I wouldn't have done that, because you told me before that one of your kind of fictional heroes is the tank commander Fury, which is Brad Pitt, and he wants to be at the forefront all the time, do everything his players will do, and he's not going to not do something that the players have to do or he's going to have to do. Owen stepped away from a tour of Bangladesh as captain. Would you have done that?
If my feelings were of what Owen's were at the time, then yes, because then still you're not being true to yourself if you feel like you have to go and do something that you don't necessarily want to do, but you feel like you have to. And that's something that I've actually learned from me actually having to take time out of the game, is that I felt like I was doing stuff I didn't want to.
Other people's
That it was
expectations.
on other people's. I was making decisions through other people's expectations of myself. And that's one thing that Moggs has always had, is complete and utter clarity in everything that he decides, whether that be on the field, off the field. His calls, that's firstly right for himself. And then when it comes to the cricket, it's about the team before himself, if that makes sense.
On the back of that, you got quite a lot of criticism, which I think you're not somebody who necessarily reads a lot of that, but you said publicly at the time that your family was quite offended by some of the stuff that was written and said. Obviously, that is part of leadership, isn't it? Coping with the glare of the spotlight, the publicity, the kind of external pressures. How did you do that, first of all? And B, you know, watching Ben having gone through the ups and downs, do you admire the way he's done that?
Yeah, I found it harder early in my career. Sort of social media was just coming in as I started playing international cricket, and you sort of start by learning the hard way. You read as much cricket and watch as much cricket as you could, and then you find yourself in the cricket news and you sort of say, right, well, that hasn't worked for me, clearly. And I just used to completely blank it out. I always see news or anything in the game while I was still playing as something that really needed to benefit me in order for me to use it. So the information, I was very precise in what information I would take in, but when it is so close to home, it is very difficult to ignore. And they are your loved ones that are you know, going through this because of your decisions or as a consequence of your decisions. So that was a tough period for me, but like we talked about the tough times that Ben has been through before, you know, it's how you come out the other side of them and how you get through them and bring everybody with you the other side. And I suppose that's how I do it. I think one of the huge skills that Ben has as a leader with the group that he's working with is that both on and off the field, he has been through so much that his level of understanding, his level of empathy, level of respect, both on and off the field. I imagine players and staff feel like that they can come to him with anything. So the other side and learning from.
Let's talk about Brendan McCullum, somebody you work with. I know Rob Gee spoke to you before he appointed Brendan. Did you have any doubts that it was going to be a marriage made in heaven?
No doubts. I suppose the hardest thing is probably getting hold of such a well-known and high-profile manager, coach, whatever you want to call them. So actually getting him on board, I thought, would have been the hardest part of the job. Absolutely no doubt that these two would have, hit it off. And knowing Stokesy unbelievably well, normally you go for a combination of, right, somebody's really aggressive, the other sort of balances it out. But actually, for what they were trying to achieve, it was important that you had two really good positive outlooks on when things go badly. You double down and be more aggressive and do various sort of things like they've spoken about before. That combined with smart cricket and just being responsible as a player. So yeah, no real doubts when he was first appointed. I was actually delighted because I knew he would bring a different attitude and a varied outlook and a positive spin on things.
Presumably you didn't know Brendan that well, did you, beforehand?
I obviously played a fair amount of cricket against him, in international cricket and also like IPL and stuff like that. So it was quite sort of an easy, like, how you going, mate, when he turned up. But I remember clear as day when there'd already been a few interviews for the coaching role. But when Baz's name got brought up, I said, Geezy goes, he said, the interview, I think he'll be okay, not about Brendan. I said, I'll just stop you there. He said he's going to be okay. We don't need okay at the moment. He says, I don't care what needs to happen. We need to get Brendan McCullum as coach of this team. And then 3 days later, he was in. It was great. I was so excited when he said that we've got it. So it was awesome.
So 12 months on Leave the Ashes now, every Ashes series, there's more hype around it. But in particular, this one feels as though more hotly anticipated than for many years because both teams are peaking at the right time and the style with which you've played. We sense that. Do you and your team sense that? And do you, therefore, as captain and leader, feel a responsibility to live up to those expectations, which are sky high?
Yeah, I think it's very obvious to players that the hype around series is, big, as you just mentioned, because of the way that obviously Australia have won the World Test Championship, and we've been playing our cricket and doing really well, since over the last year. So you can sense why everyone's, really looking forward to it. But for me, in particular for the 3 days before we've played the first test, it was around how sort of I am and how I speak, and not being any different to what I've been like over the last year. Because if I did speak any different, if I did start being a little bit, I don't know, more serious or more, I don't know, then the lads would see that and think, why is he being different? Is it because it's the Ashes, when I've been so vocal around saying that, at the end of the day, we're going out and it's a bat v ball. It's the only thing that's different is the occasion, which is the Ashes. So I needed to be very careful around what I did, but I didn't have to be careful because I just ended up being myself anyway. So, but yeah, just the whole occasion is the big difference from what we've been doing over the last year.
Final question to you. Does Ben's captaincy need the validation of an Ashes victory? You got your validation at Lords in 2019, but had England not won that, would have still been a wonderful 4 years. But does captaincy need that kind of moment just to say, yes, that we clinched the deal, as it were?
I think internally you don't. I think externally you do. And yes, it's nice to have it, but certainly the roads that this England team have paved themselves and changed the face of Test match cricket, I think, speaks absolute wonders for what is to come. So not necessarily what's around the corner, but down the line. The influence that his performances and the team's performances in such a short period of time will inspire the next generation, with or without the validation.
Well, the quote ends, "If he fails, at least fails while bearing greatly, so the display shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." But it's good to win, isn't it?
It is.
What a lovely interview. What about the culture that Ben and Brendan put into that dressing room? How important is that?
That is a foundation of any journey, and I think that's what they've really sold. All the details, all the fancy 1%ers here and there won't make any impact if you don't have that larger foundation, right? And they've absolutely done it. And you can't forget Rob, the part that he's played in that journey, because he said he's aligned. He's going to back them no matter what. All the other external pressures falls on Kesey, and he's willing to shoulder it because he believes in this team. And that belief and that inculcation of it and the instilling of it in the players through Stokes and McCullum, that's what's going to stand England in the best of state as they go along. Succession planning becomes easy as well, because you know what works, and then you choose the next person after Stokes or Brendan McCullum, take it forward and upwards, not to change it wholesale. So they've got that culture part absolutely perfect at the moment.
What's the saying? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So as much as you can have this thought about how you want the team to play, unless you have someone like Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum to come in and set the culture right from the get-go, where everyone who's into the room, even Moeen Ali, after those couple of years off, he walks straight in and you just get that sense, this is where I belong. Right. And then all of a sudden everything takes over.
And they ended that in terms of asking Owen Morgan about validation. You need to win a World Cup or an Ashes to validate the decisions, the culture that you set. They don't need it because they know it's right. The results have said it. But for us, maybe externally, you would like that as the icing on the cake.
I love the clarity that Ben speaks with, even in the planning. He wanted Pope at 3. Back Zach Crawley. Go back even before a ball was bowled under his captaincy. He said to Rob, I want Brendan McCullum. I don't care what he interviews, like, go and get it. He knew what he wanted.
Yeah, and I think that comes a lot from him being invested in the game for a long time. We chatted off air. I asked if he coveted the captaincy of the Test match team. And you said no, but as soon as it came up, he was like, yep, I want that, because he's put thought into it for a long time. It's not that he just sat there and went, oh, I'm captain now, what do I want? He's been sitting back and looking at things and digesting things. Yes, captaincy in the white ball certainly helps. But once he got in there, it's just that clarity well beforehand, so that makes things so much easier then when he's standing in front of this group, whoever comes in and comes out, if it's on the field or if it's off the field, he's absolutely there.
It's also about watching the game and talking about the game, talking cricket with your group of players, with your peers and people around you, not just playing. That really gets you focused and understanding what is needed if you want to make your mark.
124 for 3 England as we head into the afternoon session here at Edgbaston. Joe Root 20 not out. He'll be joined by Harry Brook. What will Australia throw at England next?
Ron, ridiculous. Do you know who I am?
When I see you there, my heart surrenders. Is burning ever and always.
Search for something you love. Etsy has it.
Avoid online trackers. Zen. Be more cyber zen. Get NordVPN.
You are now about to witness Almighty Apple. It's straight out Crompton, making sign with attitude. And still serve chilled even with ice cubes. When it's blended, fermented, you get a flavor how nature intended. It tastes mighty, the spicy, made from apples right here in no blighty. We get them all pressed up, then messed up, and there will be taking just the best stuff. You get taken by flavor that was on you like no other, huh? Word to your mother, straight out of Crompton.
You know, Doug, ever since switching to Workday, you've been a real rock star.
Rock star? What do you know about rock stars?
Billy Idol?
I mean, where's the skin-tight leather?
The shoes are leather.
Where's the unnecessary zippers? That thing!
Billy, rock star is just how Doug feels when he uses Workday. Thanks, Rory.
I'll show you rock star.
Be a finance and HR rock star. Workday for a changing world.
Billy Idol just sold your golf cart.
Who said electrification can't spark excitement when unplugged? New Nissan Qashqai with e-Power. A unique electrified experience, unplugged. Nissan Qashqai and X-Trail with e-Power. Get your own electrified superpower like the Flash.
Clean bubbled. That reminds me, what is for tea?
Welcome back to Edgbaston. If you're an F1 fan, we got plenty of F1 action coming up tonight. We have practice at 6 p.m, qualifying tomorrow night 8 p.m, and the race on Sky Sports F1 5:30 p.m. Sunday evening. Well, it's a perfect day for playing cricket, for watching cricket. They've just left the ground to get themselves a little drink, and they want to hurry back in because this is absolutely set up perfectly. That first session, Australia will be thrilled with 3 wickets on what is a very good surface, and England will be pleased that they have lived up to the hype. They were going to be positive. They have gone at nearly 5 runs and over, but that wicket on the stroke lunch of Zach Crawley for 61 has just turned it back towards Australia. Harry Brook, the new batter, his first Ashes Test match. Brook was ready, Scott Boland was ready, but the umpire Erasmus had his arm out. It was an absolute pearl, wasn't it? From Scott Boland just to rip the glove of Zach Crawley. First ball after lunch. He's on mark straight away. Again, debatable. New batter. Sweeper offside, sweeper leg side. Really delivery. Crawley had played well, and then this just bounced and nipped away, and it just flicked that glove. Felt like did a little bit more in the last half hour of that session, just a bit more sideways movement. .125 for 3. Just the debate between the skipper and the umpire. Umpire Rasmus said, "Sorry, Skip, I did not hear anything." Okay, well, we reviewed, we heard it.
There was a moment when Murray Rasmus actually nodded when the pitch was extended that Crawley was ready to go. But I think he knew when he went upstairs. Harry Brook, what an average. It's going to be an important player in the Ashes in terms of moving the game forward. Line continue.
Well, there's been plenty of chat and plenty of hype before this test match, mainly between Broad and Stark, but also Brook in a press conference. If Lyon bowls me a bad ball, I'm just going to belt it out the ground. Nathan Lyon, the wicket of Pope. 3 times he's got Pope in Ashes cricket. He starts up half lunch.
Oh, that's beautifully bowled. I really like this on the wicket angle, especially when there's not much turn. First session, going to a post-slot session. Try and challenge the front pad. It slides on, you have the outside edge of the wicket keeper, something that Leach perhaps could have done more of when he played on good pitches.
What Brook does very well off spins, and we saw it in Pakistan. He picks up the length of spin very well. He pulls the ball off the spin. A quiet IPL, 100 in that and then not else. These players nowadays just change format very quickly.
I was a bit surprised that he had a quiet IPL. I actually had my eye on him as to be one of the stars of the tournament, especially with the ability to play spin and variation so well.
No, I don't think so. It's close, but they'll have a look. They've already reviewed one. That was Ollie Pope. What about this one?
Pitching outside leg stump. That will be the chat, and they've all agreed.
They have a set protocol. It was clear in the WTC final. It is keeper, bowler and captain. Wherever the captain is, they run and have a chat. They reviewed Pope because they felt it pitched in line. Not sure about that one.
I'm just looking for Marnus Labuschagne every time the ball hits the pad. Here we have it. That stump line, pitching way outside leg stump. You need to have that protocol, Naz, because otherwise, if you only go by what Marnus Labuschagne says, everything's out.
.127 for 3. into that strong middle order. Likes of Root, world class. Harry Brook has had an excellent start to his international career. Stokes, who's done it before against Australia. Bairstow, brilliant last summer, and Moeen Ali brought back into the side. Problems with Duke's ball last summer. They say this summer they've stayed harder longer. They just need a bit of cutting of the leather. We will see. Three wickets have fallen today. Duckett just nicked one that didn't bounce that much through to the wicket keeper. And Carey had to dive forward and take the catch. Third time now he's been done by Nathan Lyon. Everything had to be perfect. It was. Back live. And the wobble gets Carey. But Carey took the catch just before lunch. The glove of Zach Crawley, big wicket that. Crawley played beautifully.
The way Scott Boland has control in terms of line and length. Two new batters. You can afford to bring your deep point up. Leave your deep square leg out. Try and get that bowler walking that off stump line back in, hit the pad, holding its line to take the edge. Not worry about that bound so much for a while. That's where the problem lies. Every time you bowl a good ball, a good delivery, the batters keep getting off strike. It's fine if they're set, but not when they're new.
Well, especially these two, because, you know, both lads brought up Northern England, both playing at Headingley and pitches that need do a bit. They play late, play right underneath them, so it drops by their feet. And often with Root and with Brook, there'll be just singles to be had. Australia happy to give singles. They push hard out in front.
I understand in terms of the batters that are more attacking and you want to block off the boundaries and test their patience, but Root and Brook as a new batter to the crease, you really need to try and put pressure on them. The moment you have to move that extra cover field, the more to a point to try and block the single and the gaps open up by the deep point fielder. The batter has more gaps through the offside without taking much risk.
I think Root has to be careful is he just doesn't go looking for that. Just get lazy outside the off stump, just sort of trying to run it off the face down to deep cover for a single. It nibbles and you nick it. Oh, bounce, no carry. 129 for 3.
so long.